What's up, everybody? It's Hippie, hanging out in the shop today. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I get a lot of questions on, and that's your favorite flipping baits. So let's jump right into it. So a lot of guys, you know, you've all heard about this bait, you know, the beaver or a lot of these things. You know, you can go in any tackle shop and get these. Usually on a flipping bite, a lot of guys are going to be flipping this bait. I'm going to show you some flipping baits you've never heard of. So let's dive in, Jeff. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of Megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Deps, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of Megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of Megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard to find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com.
So the first bait I'm going to talk about is when you're fishing, you know, heavy like grass mats, punching, or, you know, that sort of thing. I'm looking for a bait that doesn't have a lot of appendages, something that's going to come through fairly easy and get down to those bass. So if it's got a lot of appendages, it gets hung up on the grass, and I don't like that. You know, you end up losing a claw or whatnot, and that's just waste time. So the two baits that I gravitate towards for flipping grass or punching grass, you know, I want a bait that's going to come through. I'm going to go with the Megabass bottle shrimp. So if you look at this bait, it doesn't have a lot of things to get hung up on. Small profile, you know, real thin legs, like there's not a lot of stuff. When you punch this bait, it's gonna come through there, and there's not a lot of things to get hung up on, so it's gonna come through that cover really well. So that's one of my favorites. That's a staple from Megabass, so that's the bottle shrimp. And then another one I really like is the OSP Dolive Shrimp. So again, you know, a little bit longer body, but not a lot of stuff to get hung up on. Real thin, it's not gonna get hung up. It's the right deal when you're punching grass. So between those two, I bounce back and forth, and you know, flipping grass, I got a lot of good colors in these two baits, and you know, I can pretty much get it done with those two. So the next thing I'm gonna talk about is, you know, a lot of parts of the country, you know, the bluegill beds, the brim beds, they come up shallow and they spawn. And sometimes I catch them really well flipping, you know, around them, or, you know, sometimes there's cover and there's brim beds or bluegill beds underneath the cover, and you just don't know, but you know they spawn in that area. You know, you can flip a craw or whatnot, a worm, a Cinco, but I like a Deps bull flat. It is the right profile. So if they're on bluegills, you know, and those bass are in those bluegill beds, like this is the right profile when they're on that deal. This is what I gravitate towards. What I really like about this bait, one, it's the right profile, but when it falls to the grass, it has a super subtle action, almost like a bluegill, you know, going back down. Dude, it just gets bit. It's the right profile when they're on it. The hook comes through it really well. It's not a big chunky plastic. It's fairly soft. But dude, it's just the deal when they're on that bluegill profile. You know, especially when a guy's flipping a craw and they're on bluegill beds, you know, this is the right thing. All right, so another one that's kind of a hybrid for me, this is the Deps Spiny Craw. I like the 4.8 size, but what's awesome about this bait, like if I'm flipping grass edges or, you know, even wood, I like this one for both styles of cover. It's just a little bit bigger profile. Again, it doesn't have a lot to get hung up on, but this is just a good one. It's a staple for me. A lot of guys haven't been throwing this one, and I've added it to my arsenal. It's definitely got me a few more bites this year. So check that one out by Deps. All right, so when I'm flipping wood, I tend to like a small profile craw that has two really vibrant claws, you know, something that's gonna have a lot of action. I just prefer that when I'm flipping hard covered dead trees, you know, lay downs, that kind of stuff. This is a double motion by Evergreen. This is one that just checks all the boxes for me. It's a small profile, but it has the right legs, the right appendages. And, you know, when everybody's flipping a big bait, like in laydowns and stuff, especially, you know, if a lot of guys are fishing a lot of the same wood, a lot of the same laydowns, you know, this one gets bit when others don't. That's a really good one by Evergreen that I really like to fish. When I'm flipping wood, this is what I prefer. It's just a small craw that's got a lot of action. So one bait that I'm pretty loyal to, and it's been around forever, you know, this is in everybody's tackle box, and that's the power bait Chigger Craw, whether it's the Crazy Legs or the regular Chigger Craw. When I'm flipping wood, I've won a lot of money on this thing in the past, and just have a lot of confidence in it. It's definitely a good one to have in your arsenal. It's a staple.
Personally, why would you choose the evergreen over the Chigger Craw? What would be
because
the reason?
in my mentality, every on Roosevelt Lake that's flipping a dead tree, it has this tied on.
Has a Chigger Craw.
Yes.
Okay, so then you throw that.
I'm the only one in the United States that has this in the boat.
Right.
At the time.
Now, do you think the action is different than the Chigger Craw?
Slightly different.
What makes it different?
So these are gonna thump down, and then these are gonna move a little bit more water and thump too. So these are gonna catch water, and it's gonna create a little bit different vibration than this is. This is gonna be wide, boom, 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 boom. This one's gonna be down.
Gotcha. So
yeah,
the evergreen is the one that will kind of burr down.
Yeah. So on these baits, like they're slightly different in action. So the Chigger Craw, you know, it's got these big flat flappers on it. So when it comes and it's coming down through the water into the structure, it's going to create a, you know, a thumping sound, a thump, 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 like these big two claws going down, which is great. It gets bit, but there's times where you want something a little bit more subtle. And this evergreen craw has little cups in the claws. So when it's going down, it's going to go down a little bit more, you know, faster, but it's going to be like a brrr. And it's a lot more subtle. It's just something a little bit different. So two niche baits that a lot of people don't flip, or, you know, some of you might. There's times, so like, for example, shad spawn. You know, a lot of us like to throw a swim jig during the shad spawn. You know, you have a 100-yard stretch that's just got them gagged, and they're eating the swim jig really well, and then all of a sudden they stop eating it. Well, a lot of those bass, you know, go down into that structure and they're still there. But, you know, they won't eat a craw or, you know, a cinco or something like that. Sometimes they want the same thing that they've been eating. So I go to a swim bait. This one is my ultimate favorite for this technique because of this flat back. Let me get one out for you. So this is a 4-inch Dolive Shad. So there's not a lot going on, not a lot of ribs. Again, it falls through that cover really well, especially shad spawn. You know, they're up in those bushes, that type of deal. So this one's got a flat back. It takes a flipping hook really well, and it just comes through there really good. It doesn't have a big crazy boot tail, so it's not like doing a lot of crazy action. A lot of the time during the shad spawn, they're on small thread fin. So that little subtle boot tail is what I look for, and you know, that one gets chewed, dude. So something maybe when you're on your shad spawn and it slows down for you, flipping a swim bait could be effective for you. So there's times where, you know, conditions get tough and they're still in cover though. So we still have to get our baits into that cover, and sometimes, you know, a craw or a big profile just doesn't do it for them. So I like to flip a worm. You know, I'm still going to use my same setup, you know, heavy line, you know, if I'm using a big weight, but I like a Dolive Crawler, or, you know, sometimes even a Cinco. But I like to just flip a finesse worm into some of these places that I maybe had caught them on a creature bait, you know, 2 days prior or something like that. But I just like something more subtle, and just a finesse worm, a straight tail worm on the same gear that you were flipping your craw can get you some extra bites, and, you know, maybe uncover some fish that would have never bit that bait, you know? So something I like to do when conditions get tough is flip a worm.
Is there a certain size that you like flipping, or is it like all sizes?
So I don't really like a small worm. You know, a 6.5-inch finesse worm is about the right size for me if I'm gonna slow down and flip it. It's still big enough to get some big bites, and, you know, I'm not catching a bunch of little fish or flipping a little tiny worm into cover where big ones live. So that 6.5-inch worm is the right size if I need to slow down. All right, so let's jump into terminal tackle. So what weights, what hooks? You know, over the years, trial and error, I've kind of simplified it to, you know, 1 or 2 style of hooks and, you know, 1 or 2 different weights. You know, different sizes, but certain companies. So a lot of guys that I see just getting started off flipping go to this style hook. So a wide gap EWG style. I personally don't like this because when you're flipping into this cover, you know, that bait doesn't really have anything to hold on to other than that little, you know, that corner, that little gap. So I don't like it because, you know, if you're a whole day of flipping, you know, probably by the 5th or 6th flip, that bait's gonna slide down. So it's just not efficient. Will it work? Yeah, but it's not the right hook. I go with, I believe Owner makes the best flipping hook. This is the Jungle flipping hook. So a 3-4-aught, that's what I mainly use. You know, if I'm flipping a big bait, then I'll go like a 5-aught. But between these two sizes, you know, I can pretty much flip about anything I have in my boat. Been really successful with this hook. Doesn't bend out, it's really strong. So on the flipping hook, it has this heavy monofilament keeper to hold that plastic up. And it's not like some other flipping hooks that have like a heavy guard on there, you know, and it tears the plastic. That one preserves your plastic and it stays on there really well. So side by side, here's an EWG and a flipping hook. Okay, so we're gonna rig some baits and we're gonna show you why you want this style hook over this style hook. So here's an example of why I don't use a EWG style hook. As you go throughout your day and you're flipping, you know, this plastic starts to wear on this, you know, as you put pressure on it, and over time it's going to do that, which, you know, these days, you know, high-end plastics are a little expensive and we want to preserve them as long as possible. So I'll show you why on the flipping hook, you know, we go to that flipping hook because it stays on there better. So as you can see, I'm putting a lot of pressure on this hook, you know, on this bait, and it's staying true. So throughout the day, you know, this bait's gonna last me a lot longer, you know, and it's staying on that keeper. That's why we like that flipping hook. And I think they just get hooked a little bit better as well. All right, so when I'm flipping, I prefer a flipping style weight. So it's gonna have a certain shape to it. So it comes through that cover really well. I choose Reins. I believe they make the best weights. They're inserted, so it protects my line from getting, you know, chafed throughout the day. If I'm flipping a big heavy weight, they make, you know, 1.5 ounce, 2 ounces inserted. And then if I'm flipping, you know, like 1/4, 3/8 ounce, you know, light stuff, they also make those sizes as well. So bobber stops, a lot of companies make a bobber stop. They all work the same, but I prefer this Decoy Texas lock. It forms the nose of my weight, so it keeps it pegged a little bit better rather than just having that little, you know, that little oval just kind of in front of it. This one fits the nose of the weight really well. Sometimes I don't have to use 2, but you know, when you do have 2 on there, they're really strong and they keep your shit pegged.
So when would you use 2 pegs over 1?
So I use 2 and I'm using a bigger weight and I've got more, you know, more sliding forward, like probably 1/2 ounce or more. I'm using a double peg, and then anything under 1/2 ounce, I can get away with a single. When I'm flipping grass, 95% of the time, unless it's very sparse grass, I'm gonna flip a braid. I choose, you know, I want a super soft braid, not something that's really stiff, something that's gonna go through that grass really nicely. It's a thinner diameter, and you can get away with those bigger sizes, you know, 55, 70 pound, and it's not gonna feel like you're using rope. So when I'm flipping wood, when I'm flipping laydowns, old trees, brush piles, that kind of stuff, I never go to braid because the difference between fluorocarbon and braid, when you flip into wood, that braid goes over that branch and that fish eats, you know, and you set the hook, you're sawing that braid into the wood, and, you know, you're gonna lose that fish. It's gonna create slack that you don't need. So 100% of the time, I'm using a 22-pound shooter fluorocarbon. Again, smaller diameter, but very, very strong and abrasion resistant when I'm fishing that wood.
Why choose braid over fluorocarbon for grass then?
Why I choose braid over fluoro for grass is because that the braid will actually cut that grass and will get, you know, kind of clear the path for you. So kind of the opposite with the fluorocarbon. You want that braid to help you and get, you know, kind of cut the way and get that fish coming towards you. So when I'm flipping, I want a good heavy duty, you know, something with a good handle on it, some big knobs, you know, because this is power fishing, you know, you're gonna wrench them out of that stuff. I want something that's gonna last, and I want a really fast reel. So I choose a Daiwa Steez. It's got a bigger handle on it, high gear ratio. This is an 8-to-1 Daiwa Steez A. It's just a, you know, a beefier reel, but it's still compact where I'm flipping all day. You know, I'm not having this dinosaur of a reel in my hand, and it's comfortable. But when I hit one, I know I've got that speed and that power to get them in. So another great option, we just got these guys in from Daiwa, Japan. These are the Daiwa Zillion HLC. So hyper long cast. So I love a lot of things about this guy. It's got an amazing handle. The knobs are great. It's the right gear ratio. It's heavy duty, but it's not huge. So it's gonna be a great one for flipping, and it's gonna last. All right, so I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about rods. When I'm fishing grass, I'm looking for something that's a fast action rod, but it's soft. So, you know, when you make a flip into, you know, a big mat and it punches through that mat and you hit that fish, and if that rod's too fast and it's too stiff, you kind of want it to load, you know, so when that bait goes in there, it goes down, that fish grabs it, you know, I want that rod to absorb all that, so when I hit him, you know, it's not just all quick. There's a lot of slack that goes in when that bait punches through, that your line lays across. So I want to be able to pick that up, swing on him, and my rod do a lot of that work. And you know, I prefer a softer, fast action rod. So I bounce around between 2 rods. I use an 8-foot Steez, so that'd be this guy right here. It's a great option from Daiwa. And then another one that I really like, you know, this kind of reminds me of growing up. Been using this rod a lot. This is a Megabass Destroyer 711. This one is the right action. It's telescopic. I like the full, you know, the carbon into the cork. This just checks all my boxes, and it does flipping grass very well. So when I'm flipping grass, I like a longer rod because, you know, if I've got some mats that I want to stay away from or they're a little shallower, I can be more accurate with a longer rod. Plus, again, when I hit them, I just feel, you know, I want that longer rod to absorb all that when I'm getting them out of that grass. I just flip them in there.
Yeah, that's good.
And they eat it. So another great option from St. Croix, their Legend Elite. It's the right taper, guys. So if you're looking for an American-made rod that has the right action for flipping grass, this one does it. It's a 711 heavy, but it's parabolic. So, you know, you're gonna get what we're looking for like those other rods, but that's a really great one from St. Croix. So when I'm flipping wood, I'm looking for something stiff, you know, that's still fast action, but it's gonna get to the point very quickly. You know, it's got a little bit of tip to absorb that bite, but I want it to get down to work fairly fast. So my rod of choice is at 895 NRX. It's a 7.5 extra heavy. It's a little bit shorter, 7'5". When I'm flipping wood, flipping laydowns, I'm a little bit more accurate with this guy. And it's just a powerhouse of a rod, guys. And you know, I have a lot of confidence when I've got my Steez A on this guy, 22-pound shooter. You know, I could just get to work and, you know, have confidence I'm gonna get those fish in. Another great option for flipping wood by Megabass, again, a 7'2". This is the Wild Bunch. Flipping wood or maybe even sparse grass. This is a great option for Megabass. Or even you bank guys or kayak guys that are looking for a flipping stick that's a little bit shorter but still, you know, be able to handle the big stuff, the Wild Bunch does it. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. I had a blast talking about one of my favorite techniques. Hopefully this helps you. If you guys have any questions, drop us a question down below. Jeff will link all these products. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.